Have you ever wondered what truly makes a man unforgettable? Not just attractive for a moment, but magnetic in a way that leaves a lasting impression on the heart. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an age obsessed with winning hearts, chasing likes, collecting followers, and securing validation at any cost. But tragically, too many are going about it all wrong. Smooth talk has replaced sincerity. False charm has taken the place of real character. Empty promises have replaced integrity, truth, and lasting commitment. But I'm here today to tell you something that could change everything you thought you knew about what draws people in. There is one kind of man every woman, yes, even one who already has someone, will find herself drawn to. And it has nothing to do with looks, status, or money. It's not a cheesy pickup line whispered in dim lighting. It's not some manipulative trick or a carefully curated image. It's something deeper, something real. It's a truth, a way of living that speaks louder than any words ever could. Let me share with you 6 key principles. 6 truths you can declare, not just with your lips, but with your life, truths that will turn heads and touch hearts. Not for manipulation, but for genuine transformation. Because this isn't about playing games. This isn't about getting what you want in the moment. This is about becoming a man of substance, a man whose character and convictions draw people in because they sense something different, something solid, something eternal. These principles aren't just sentences to memorize. They are foundations to build your life on. And they draw a line in the sand that separates boys from men, charmers from leaders, attention seekers from purpose-driven souls. In a world where everyone seems to be chasing someone or something, status, success, validation, fleeting pleasure, there is something deeply attractive, almost magnetic about the man who confidently says, with his actions, "I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to be faithful to something bigger than both of us." Think about that for a second. In a culture where people bend over backward for applause, what stands out most is the man who doesn't need it to stand tall. You see, we're not just bodies walking through time. We're souls built for eternity. And whether they admit it or not, every soul is searching for something real, something solid, something that doesn't shift like sand when the winds of life change. And when a man anchors his heart to eternal truth, when his words echo unchanging values, when his eyes don't dart around the room looking for approval, but remain fixed on something higher, that man doesn't need to chase anyone. Because he becomes the kind of man others are naturally drawn to, the kind of man they respect, the kind of man they want to follow. We've all seen men who chase. They chase attention, chase, beauty chase, affection like moths to a flickering flame. But have you ever watched a man who's chasing righteousness? Have you watched a man who speaks with integrity even when it costs him? A man who acts with restraint even when temptation taunts him? A man who stands with unwavering conviction even when no one is watching? Even when he knows no one will ever know, that man is different. That man is rare. And that rarity is what makes him unforgettable. He doesn't need to advertise himself with loud words or flashy gestures. He doesn't need to flatter or persuade with empty compliments. His presence alone speaks a message louder than any words ever could. I know who I am. I know who I belong to. And a woman, especially one with any depth of soul, can feel that. She may already be in a relationship. She may be surrounded by admirers and attention. But deep down, like every soul, she's longing for a man whose compass points to something greater than his own desires. Because a man who lives like this stands out in a sea of people, drifting without direction. He doesn't crumble under pressure or shift his morals just to fit in. His strength isn't measured by the volume of his voice, but by the depth of his convictions. His worth isn't calculated by the number of eyes on him, but by the faithfulness of his heart when no one is watching. He carries a quiet confidence that says, My life is not about chasing empty praise. My life is about chasing God's purpose for me. Such a man doesn't see women as trophies to win or conquests to boast about. He sees them as precious souls, worthy of respect, deserving of honesty. He doesn't need to manipulate or impress because his authenticity is impressive enough on its own. His life becomes a testimony, a lighthouse in a foggy world, a steady beacon pointing to something and someone greater than himself. And in this world, where so many hearts are weary of lies, where so many souls are exhausted from shallow games, there is something profoundly attractive about the man who says, "Through every word, every action, every quiet moment, I will not compromise. I will not settle. I will stand for truth. I will walk with integrity, and I will love with a heart anchored in something eternal." That, my friends, is the man every woman, whether she realizes it or not, will respect, admire, and be drawn to. Because beyond charm, beyond chemistry, beyond fleeting excitement, every soul is hungry for something real. And a man who lives faithfully, who fears God more than man, who chooses character over compromise, that is the man who becomes truly unforgettable. A true man, a man of unshakable conviction, doesn't crumble under pressure or bend to every passing breeze of temptation. He's not a leaf tossed about by every gust of desire. He's not swayed by fleeting pleasures or seduced by easy shortcuts. He's steady, anchored, and unwavering. A man like this doesn't open his mouth just to impress or manipulate hearts. He speaks to serve truth. His words carry weight because they're backed by character, not just charisma. And let me tell you, this plainly, the world may not reward that kind of man instantly. He may go unnoticed in a crowd obsessed with shallow charm. But heaven sees him. Heaven honors him. And while people may overlook him now, when the storms of life come, and they always do, they'll remember him. They'll remember the man who built his life on the rock, while others danced and played on shifting sands. This kind of strength can't be faked with grand gestures or empty declarations. It's not built in gyms or crafted in mirror selfies. It's forged in the quiet hidden places, those moments of prayer, when no one sees those tough decisions made, when no one knows the daily choice to die to selfishness and live for principle. It's the kind of strength that refuses to cut corners when it would be easier to compromise. It's the strength that honors what is sacred, that protects what isn't his to take, that guards what God has entrusted to him. And yes, when you boldly say, "I stand for something greater than myself," you will lose some opportunities. There will be doors that close. There will be invitations that never arrive, friendships that fade, and moments when the world labels you as rigid or outdated. But don't let that discourage you, because the right doors will open, and the right people, the ones who matter, will notice. They won't notice because you manipulated them, or because you performed a perfect act. They'll notice because you lived with quiet dignity, consistent integrity, and the kind of strength that can't be counterfeited. So yes, even if the woman you admire is already spoken for, even if the world whispers in your ear to compete, to charm, to chase her, remember this powerful truth. The most attractive man in any room is often the one who isn't trying to be seen at all, but the one who knows he is already seen by God. He doesn't stand tall to soak up admiration. He stands because he simply cannot kneel to anything less than the truth. He stands because compromise is not an option. That kind of man doesn't have to chase anyone, because when you stand for something greater, you become someone greater. And when you become someone greater, you don't need to chase anyone or anything. The right kind of people, the right kind of woman will be drawn, not to your chase, but to your calling. It's not about playing games or strategizing for attention. It's about living a life that naturally attracts what aligns with God's best for you. That may sound simple, But in today's world, it's revolutionary. Because respect has become rare. Honor has become outdated. We live in a world where desire is king, where the instant someone wants something, or someone they feel entitled to it, regardless of the cost, regardless of the commitments already made, regardless of the damage it may cause. But let me speak a truth. The world doesn't want you to hear real strength doesn't take what isn't yours. Real strength doesn't justify selfishness with shallow excuses. Real strength walks away from what doesn't belong to you even when everything in you screams to reach for it. Because respect isn't weakness. It's not cowardice. It's not passivity. Respect is the strength to restrain yourself when every impulse says to take. Respect is wisdom that sees the future impact of present choices. Respect is the quiet, dignified power to say, "That's not mine, and I won't touch it." Respect is what sets apart a man of substance from a boy chasing pleasure. It's what transforms fleeting attraction into lasting admiration. It's what turns a momentary spark into a lifelong legacy. And it's what gives you peace when you lay your head down at night, knowing you stood for what was right even when it cost you something in the moment. So ask yourself, brother, will you be the man who takes shortcuts to get what he wants, or the man who takes the long, narrow path, because he knows that's where true strength is built? Will you let the pressure of temptation bend you, or will you remain rooted in who God says you are? Because at the end of the day, it's not your words that prove your worth. It's your choices. It's your ability to walk away from what's easy when it means staying true to what's right. It's the strength to say, even if I could, I won't, because I answer to something higher than my desires. And here's the paradox worth pondering. In a culture obsessed with conquest and applause, the man who respects boundaries quietly becomes more powerful than the man who breaks them. You don't win trust by crossing lines. You win trust by honoring them. And a woman, whether she's single or already committed, can feel the difference. She may feel flattered by reckless attention, but she is deeply moved by true character. She is drawn to a man who doesn't just want her, but one who would protect her even from himself. There's a silent dignity in the man who refuses to flirt with someone else's future, who shows through his actions, "I value you too much to treat you as an object of temptation, and I value myself too much to lower my standards for a fleeting thrill." That kind of man isn't common. He doesn't need to be loud to command respect. He's magnetic because in his presence, people feel safe, women feel honored, men feel challenged, and God is pleased. But let's be honest, it's easy to blur lines when emotions run high, easy to wield charm as a weapon, easy to hide selfish intentions behind smiles and sweet words. Yet, here's the truth. If you win someone through disrespect, you will lose them the same way. What begins in compromise never ends in peace, and deep down, the soul knows that. That's why respect is the truest test of a man's worth. Respect isn't how you treat someone when you want something from them. It's how you treat them when you know you shouldn't ask for anything at all. It's how you behave when no one else is watching. It's what you choose to do when you could take advantage but decide to walk away instead. So yes, say it with clarity and conviction, "I respect what is not mine." And then live it. Live it in how you look, how you speak, how you act, when temptation whispers in the dark. Let that commitment become your quiet, powerful statement to the world. Because here's the irony that most miss: when you refuse to cross the line, when you respect a woman's heart, especially if it belongs to someone else, you don't lose influence. You gain it. She may never say it out loud, but she notices. She recognizes that you're not driven by impulse, but led by principle. That you're not here to take, but to protect. And even if she's already taken, she will carry a quiet reverence for the kind of man you are. Because the respect you give never vanishes. It returns in the form of honor. The man who honors others ends up being honored himself, not with shallow flattery, but with deep, lasting trust that speaks louder than any words. And in a world absolutely starving for authenticity, a man like that isn't just attractive. He's rare, unforgettable, and deeply respected. That's not some catchy slogan meant to impress you. It's a standard. It's a line in the sand that sets apart men who merely talk about integrity from those who actually live it. And sadly, it's a standard the world has almost forgotten. We see countless people trying desperately to influence others, trying to win love, trying to be seen as leaders, all while never learning to first lead themselves, to govern their own soul, to master their own impulses. But let me say this to you plainly, brother. You cannot lead a woman's heart if you cannot first lead your own life. You cannot be trusted with someone else's emotions if you haven't learned to manage your own mind, your own habits, your own decisions. You can't offer stability to another person if your own life is a storm of inconsistency. And hear this well, self-leadership isn't glamorous. It's not something you perform on a stage or brag about online. It's not about grand speeches or social media spotlights. It happens in the quiet, private moments when no one else is watching. It's who you are when the world isn't applauding. It's the alarm clock you choose to obey each morning, even when your body begs you to sleep in. It's the urges you refuse to give in to at night, when temptation creeps in and whispers that no one will know. It's the anger you choose to tame instead of unleashing on those around you. It's the pride you silence when it tries to puff you up. It's the truth you face honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. These are the hidden, silent battles that shape whether you will become a man of depth and substance or just another echo lost in the noisy crowd. Here's the truth. A woman might be impressed by charisma for a moment, but she is drawn to consistency for a lifetime. Charm is quick and easy to project. Stability is slow and must be earned. And when a man consistently leads himself with integrity, humility, and discipline, he doesn't just become respectable. He becomes a source of safety and strength, not just for himself, but for everyone around him. He becomes the kind of man a woman can trust, not because he says the right words, but because he lives the right way, day in and day out. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you're making leadership decisions. Even if you don't feel like a leader, you are already leading your thoughts, your words, your time, your energy, and your desires. And when you choose to lead those things well, you're not only becoming more respectable, you're becoming safer. And let me tell you, safety is something every woman longs for, whether she knows how to put it into words or not. A man who is safe emotionally, spiritually, and physically is worth more than 1,000 men who are exciting but unstable. Because no matter how thrilling or adventurous you may seem on the surface, if you are unstable, selfish, or impulsive, you become a risk to her heart, not a refuge. But when you show that you are rooted, that you can say no to yourself when needed, that you can delay gratification, that you can carry responsibility without needing constant praise or applause, that's when real attraction begins. That's when a woman's respect grows beyond words, because respect can't be forced. It's earned through quiet strength and unwavering integrity. A man like this doesn't need to shout about how much of a man he is. His life speaks louder than his lips ever could. His self-control shows her he can be trusted in the small things, which means he can also be trusted in the big things, like her heart, her future, her deepest fears. When a man governs himself, he signals to the world that he is capable of leading and protecting what God may one day entrust to him. And in a world filled with men chasing temporary thrills, a man who shows restraint and patience becomes irresistible because he offers what is rare security. That's why I'm telling you, brother, if you want to become the kind of man women of depth are drawn to focus less on perfecting your words and more on perfecting your daily disciplines. Focus less on chasing attention and more on chasing integrity. Because every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you are building something far more powerful than temporary attraction. You're building trust. And trust is the soil where real love can grow. And that, my friend, is what will set you apart in a world full of boys playing games. Because when you lead yourself first, you earn the right to one day lead a family, a marriage, and a legacy. That's the kind of man who isn't just seen, but remembered and honored. Because leadership, real leadership, doesn't look like domination or loud declarations of power. It looks like quiet self-control. It looks like emotional maturity that doesn't crumble when things don't go your way. It looks like unwavering integrity when no one is clapping or watching. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to be perfect to lead yourself well. You just have to be honest. Honest enough to admit when you've messed up. Humble enough to ask for help when you know you can't do it alone. Brave enough to look into the parts of yourself that still need healing and refuse to hide them behind a mask. That kind of honesty is rare in a world full of filters and facades. And a man like that doesn't have to chase anyone, because the way he carries himself naturally causes others to take notice. Let me say this plainly, and without hesitation, a man who can't manage his own life has absolutely no business trying to manage someone else's heart. Because love isn't about control, it's about stewardship, and you can't steward a woman's heart well if you can't even steward your own mind habits or time. But a man who wakes up every single day and chooses growth over comfort, responsibility over excuses, truth over image, he becomes a lighthouse in a dark sea. He becomes the man who stands out, not because he's flashy or perfect, but because he's consistent, he's steady, he's safe. He's someone a woman can trust with her heart, knowing he won't drop it when times get hard. A woman may not even fully understand why she's drawn to a man like this. She might not be able to explain it in words, but deep down she senses it's not because he's charming or has the perfect smile. It's because his character is solid. It's because he's anchored. So before you try to lead anyone else, before you even think about leading a woman's heart, focus first on leading yourself. Lead your thoughts with discipline. Lead your habits with purpose. Lead your emotions with patience. Lead your time with wisdom. And do it not to earn applause or gather compliments, but because you've made a quiet, resolute decision to become a man worthy of trust, worthy of respect, and yes, worthy of love that is deep, lasting, and real. This right here is where so many men fall short. Because attention, that's easy to get. Post the right photo at the right time, say the perfect witty line, flash a confident smile, and people will look. Attention is cheap. It can be bought with almost no substance at all. But accountability. That's a whole different matter. Accountability means inviting someone into your life with permission to tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. It means allowing someone to challenge you when your ego wants to defend itself. It means choosing growth over comfort every time. And that, my friend, is where real men are forged. Anyone can impress people from a distance. But it takes a rare kind of man to submit himself to correction, to say sincerely, "Watch my life. Point it out when I'm off track. Don't just tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear, even when it stings." Because only a man who wants to grow invites the kind of honesty that makes him better. You see, when a man stops chasing attention and starts embracing accountability, he stops performing for the crowd and starts transforming himself from the inside out. And growth, that consistent, humble pursuit of becoming better, is deeply attractive. Because a man who welcomes accountability shows he's serious about becoming better, not just appearing better. He's not afraid of the truth. He doesn't flinch when someone challenges him. He doesn't hide behind a mask of charm. He stands in the light, unafraid of being seen as imperfect, because he knows it's better to be real than to be praised for a lie. That brother is the kind of man a wise woman will be drawn to, not because he's flawless, but because he's authentic, because he's courageous enough to be refined instead of remaining stagnant. Too many people today surround themselves only with cheerleaders' voices that agree with everything they say, or with echo chambers that only feed their egos. But that's not how a man grows. A man grows by inviting truth even when it's uncomfortable. He grows by being willing to hear you were wrong without letting shame define him. He grows by seeking wise voices, not just approving ones. Because growth begins when you stop chasing applause and start embracing accountability. They only listen to people who flatter them. But the man who truly seeks accountability surrounds himself with truth-tellers, those willing to speak what he needs to hear, not just what he wants to hear. He chooses friends who sharpen him like iron, not those who simply celebrate him in shallow moments. He stays connected to mentors, to faith, and to unwavering principles that pull him upward even when his feelings tempt him to stay low and stagnant. And let me make this crystal clear. Accountability doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. You don't lose freedom when you choose to be accountable. You gain direction, you gain focus, and you gain the kind of depth that fleeting approval can never offer you. A man under healthy authority is far more trustworthy than one who answers only to himself. Because when you know someone is watching your life, someone who cares enough to correct you, you live with intention. You become careful with your words, cautious with your choices, and consistent with your character. A woman, especially a woman of depth and maturity, will naturally be drawn to that kind of man. She's not just looking for someone to have fun with for a season. She's searching for someone to build a life with, someone whose foundation won't crack under pressure. And you can't build a future on ego or charm alone. You can only build it on truth, on character, on humility. A man who says, "Hold me to a higher standard," shows that he's not chasing fleeting emotions or cheap thrills, he's chasing lasting purpose. So don't just seek applause. Seek alignment with your values. Don't just chase moments of validation that disappear as quickly as they come. Build a life that stands firm, solid, and unshakable, even when no one is clapping for you. And when you mess up, and you will own it, confess it, fix it. That's what accountability looks like. That's real leadership. That's true manhood. Let your life speak a clear message. I want people in my world who will call me higher. I don't want to drift aimlessly. I don't want to fake it. I want to grow, even if it costs me my comfort. Because a man who welcomes accountability will always rise. Not because he's flashy or famous, but because his roots grow deep and his heart stays humble and open. That kind of man doesn't just attract eyes for a moment. He earns trust for a lifetime. And in the long run, trust always outlasts attention. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must choose what kind of strength he will carry. Will he be strong for himself, loud, dominant, self-serving? Or will he be strong for others, quiet but steady, using his strength not to impress but to protect? Because real strength isn't measured by how many eyes you can turn your way, but by how many hearts you can guard with honor and integrity. And remember this truth we've been building toward protection: real selfless protection is always costly. True protection doesn't draw crowds or fill highlight reels. The world rarely celebrates protectors. It glorifies those who conquer, those who take, those who chase victory at any cost. But deep down in the quiet places of every heart, we know something different. We know there's something noble, something deeply honorable about a man who stands in the gap. A man who willingly places himself between danger and innocence. A man who shields what is fragile and defends what is good, even when it brings him no recognition or applause. This kind of man isn't flashy. He's not trying to dominate the conversation or demand the spotlight, yet his presence changes the atmosphere. His steady character makes people feel safe, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. He's the man who silences gossip instead of joining in. He's the man who protects a woman's name and reputation when others are trying to drag it through the dirt with careless words. He's the one who chooses to walk away from temptation because he knows trust once broken is hard to rebuild, and he refuses to betray it, whether it's his own or someone else's. To protect what truly matters means you set boundaries not just for the people around you but also for yourself. It means you don't toy with hearts, you don't flirt with what isn't yours, you don't pretend your words are harmless when you know they carry weight. You recognize your attention has power, and you choose intentionally to use that power for good rather than selfish gain. But this kind of protection doesn't stop with others. It also means guarding your own heart. Because if you fail to protect your soul from compromise, you won't have the strength or clarity to protect anyone else from the ripple effects of your choices. A man who is serious about shielding others must first learn to shield himself. That means you shut down the lies that creep into your mind late at night. You refuse to feed bitterness or let it take root. You fight the silent battles within yourself before they have a chance to erupt into battles around you. And yes, hear this clearly, it will cost you. True protection always does. You'll lose moments of fleeting pleasure that others rush into. You'll choose to walk away from situations where others dive in head first without a second thought. You'll probably be misunderstood by some who can't see the bigger picture. But don't let that discourage you, because the protection you offer today, those boundaries you set, those battles you fight, in secret plant seeds of honor that will bear fruit tomorrow. A woman, whether she's yours, someone else's, or not even thinking about love at all, will recognize the man who guards her dignity instead of playing with it. She may never put it into words, but deep down, she knows that man is safe. That man can be trusted. And when she sees him, something in her soul respects him. Because protection isn't weakness. It's strength wrapped in humility. It's courage clothed in restraint. But remember, protection isn't just defensive. It's proactive. It's not just about what you say no to, but also what you choose to build up. It's encouraging others when they feel weak or alone. It's speaking truth in love even when staying silent would be more comfortable. It's praying for those you care about, even when they don't know you're on your knees for them. It's choosing sacrifice over selfishness, not just once, but day after day, moment after moment. A true protector doesn't wait for a crisis to suddenly become strong. He trains his heart, mind, and spirit in the quiet times so that when storms come, and they always do, he's already ready. He's already strong. His strength isn't an act he puts on for emergencies. It's a lifestyle he's cultivated long before anyone was watching. Because he knows that protection isn't reactive, it's a daily choice. So, brother, if you want to be the kind of man whose strength inspires trust, don't chase the world's praise for power. Pursue the kind of strength that makes others feel safe in your presence. Live with the quiet conviction that your purpose is bigger than your pleasure, that your integrity matters more than your image, and that the seeds of protection you plant today will grow into forests of trust tomorrow. He doesn't stumble into strength by accident. He builds it daily by choosing what's right, even in the small unseen moments. When others compromise because no one is looking, he chooses integrity anyway. And when the crisis comes, and trust me, it always does, he doesn't scramble or panic. He's already steady. His convictions have been tested long before the storm, and that steadiness becomes an anchor of peace for everyone around him. So let your life speak this truth, not with dramatic showy gestures, but with quiet, consistent choices that say, I will protect what matters even when it costs me. Because that cost, it's not a loss, it's an investment in your integrity, your trustworthiness, your legacy. In the end, people won't remember how loud you were or how flashy your words sounded. They'll remember how safe they felt when you were near. They'll remember the shield you carried when others only carried swords cutting others down instead of covering them. They'll remember the man who chose to protect when it would have been so much easier to walk away, to take what he wanted, or to chase after his own comfort. That kind of clarity and conviction is rare, especially in a world that doesn't celebrate waiting or patience anymore. We live in a culture that screams, if you want it, take it. If it feels good, do it. If it's available, pursue it now, no matter the cost, or who might get hurt. But a man who truly knows what he wants doesn't chase every shiny option. He doesn't rush into temporary pleasures hoping they'll bring lasting peace. He waits not because he's passive, but because he has purpose. And purpose brings patience. Knowing what you want is about far more than having a checklist or a wish list. It's about having vision. It's about saying, I've seen what's counterfeit. I know what's shallow. And I'm willing to walk past all of it, to reach what's real, what's lasting, what's truly worthy of my heart. It's about choosing quality over convenience, character, over mere charm, depth, over the instant gratification the world sells like candy. That kind of man doesn't settle not because he thinks he's better than everyone else, but because he knows the best things can't be rushed or forced. Waiting in his eyes is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of quiet, unshakable confidence. It's the inner strength that says, I don't need to chase attention. I don't need to force something that isn't ready. I can stand here focused, faithful, and fully grounded because I am not moved by pressure. I am moved by purpose. And, don't misunderstand, there will be pressure. Pressure to flirt, to play games, to prove your worth by how quickly you can capture someone's attention. Pressure to jump into something shallow just to feel desired, or to numb the sting of loneliness with something temporary. But a man of vision doesn't cave to that pressure. He remembers who he is. He remembers what he's building. He remembers the foundation he's laying not just for himself, but for his future marriage, his future family, his legacy. He refuses to trade a lifetime of peace and purpose for a fleeting moment of pleasure. He knows the cost of compromise is always higher than it looks at first. Because once you give in to the pressure to settle for what's easy, you start drifting away from what's truly meant for you. And you risk missing the one thing worth waiting for, a love built on mutual respect, shared faith, and deep trust. So let your waiting be a statement of strength. Let your patience reveal the depth of your character. Let your standards reflect the honor you hold for yourself and the woman you one day hope to call yours. Because every time you choose patience over impulse, every time you walk away from what's fake to keep your heart available for what's real, you're telling the world you won't be moved by cheap attention or shallow praise. Instead, you're moved by purpose. And that purpose will carry you forward even when temptation whispers, even when loneliness tries to convince you that settling is better than standing alone. Because a man who waits with purpose is never really alone. He's walking with conviction with God, with a quiet confidence that what's worth having is worth waiting for. Because we've seen that waiting with purpose is more than just resisting temptation, it's a declaration of who you are and what you stand for. And this kind of man isn't afraid to be alone for a season. He doesn't see waiting as a punishment or as evidence that he's falling behind. Instead, he views it as preparation, an essential, irreplaceable time when he can become the man he knows he needs to be. While others rush headlong into relationships, they're not ready to nurture or lead. He's quietly building the kind of life that can sustain love when it finally arrives. He's not wasting these days polishing the perfect pickup line or rehearsing shallow words designed to impress. He's refining his soul, sharpening his values, deepening his faith, and developing the strength of character that can weather life's storms. Because he knows the truth, that so many overlook the right woman isn't merely looking for chemistry. She's looking for stability, for integrity, for quiet consistency. And those things take time to build. Those things are crafted through lonely nights of prayer, through hard choices made in silence, through lessons learned in seasons of waiting. And the woman who's truly worth waiting for, she'll always recognize a man who has chosen to wait. She'll see it in the strength of his words, in the unshakable peace reflected in his eyes, in the way he stands confident without needing to compete or to prove his worth through empty boasts. He's not chasing attention or trying to win affection with noise. He's inviting her into a story he's been writing intentionally, carefully, and with honor long before they ever met. And here's the honest truth that so many men need to hear. Sometimes the one who waits will be misunderstood. He may be mocked for being too serious, labeled as boring, because he doesn't play games, or ignored by those who are drawn to drama and chaos. He may feel overlooked in a world that rewards loudness over substance. But know this: in the end, the world always circles back to what's real. Because when the noise fades, when the excitement of shallow options fizzles out, when the temporary thrills leave people, empty hearts begin to crave what's genuine, lasting, and true. So let your life speak louder than your words ever could. Let your patience resonate deeper than your performance. Let your unwavering standards stand taller than your moments of loneliness. Say, with your daily choices, I know what I want, and I'm willing to become the kind of man who's truly ready for it. That's not weakness. That's the definition of maturity. That's the heart of faith. And that's the kind of inner resolve that doesn't just catch someone's eye for a moment, it commands respect that lasts a lifetime. Because here's what many don't understand: you don't have to chase what's meant for you. When you're walking faithfully in your purpose, when you're rooted in who you are, what's truly meant for you will recognize you. It will see your depth, feel your peace, and sense your steady conviction. It will be drawn not by your efforts to impress, but by the undeniable alignment of your character with what it was meant to find. And when that moment comes, when the woman worth waiting for meets the man who had the strength, the courage, and the faith to wait, there will be no doubt. There will be no games, no confusion, no frantic striving to prove anything. There will simply be peace. There will be clarity. There will be a quiet, powerful knowing that this is right, that this is different, that this story wasn't written by mere chance or luck, but by intentional choice, by two hearts prepared separately for a shared purpose. So stand firm, brother. Let your patience plant seeds that will one day bloom into something beautiful. Let your standards be a beacon, not a burden. Let your faith carry you through the waiting, reminding you that God's timing is perfect, even when it feels slow. Because one day, all the lonely nights, all the quiet prayers, all the moments when you chose principle over pleasure, they will have prepared you for a love that doesn't just excite, but endures. And in the end, when people look back at your life, they won't remember how loud you were or how many eyes you turned for a fleeting moment. They'll remember the quiet strength with which you waited. They'll remember the peace you carried into every room. They'll remember the way you made those around you feel safe, honored, and valued, simply by being exactly who you were meant to be. That is the legacy of a man who knew what he wanted and was willing to wait for it. That is the mark of a man who didn't just live to impress, but to build something lasting. That is the story of a man who walked with purpose, and because of that found what was truly meant for him.